Alright, so we're going to talk about something that I don't really talk about too often, which is mental habits. There's a lot of mental habits that we all have. We all have similar ones too. That's honestly how a lot of us relate in life on a lot of things. But to be honest with you, these mental habits are most of the time coping mechanisms for some type of traumatic thing that's happened in our life, or some type of defense mechanism for something in our life at the end of the day. I know. So I never really did the research on this too much, and this is really all just from like actual whatever work, I guess. But so I started with like just affirmations. Like affirmations, where I was big on spirituality. I was still am, like, stop playing. But I was very, very big on spirituality. I was like almost in the, what is it called? I can't remember the right term, but I'm pretty sure it was like spiritual psychosis, where it's like you overdo it. Like it's like you've overcome. It's like, well, I guess it's exactly what it says, spiritual psychosis. So I pretty much went through that at the time, and I was thinking everything was aligned and all this stuff. Okay, I had to pause one more time because I lost track, but I was feeling like everything was aligned, everything was perfect, everything made sense. I had the keys for everything, but nothing was happening. Alarm was like, something was trying to make me lose my faith in a sense. And I mean, I guess yeah and no. You could say it was the devil, you could say it was negative, but really it was just myself. It was really just me coping against myself, because I have these coping mechanisms and I have these habits that are now in my head known as bad, but originally was known as protection. So now my brain's trying to process this change, this shift, because shifting on the outside of, like, shifting in reality in the real world, it's easy to actually adapt to it. Like, you think it's hard and it's definitely something to deal with, but the change on the outside is way easier to deal with than the change on the inside, because the change on the inside actually is something that you have to go through, well, like 24/7. Like, you even when you forget about it, or you lose focus and you focus on something else for a second and you kind of get that break, I bet it's still in the back of your mind, because it's something that exists within you. So it's always existing for you, not for anybody else, but for you. Versus something in the real world is like, once you leave it, say it's a new phone that you just got and you just lost it, but now you're still okay, you're still alive, you're gonna get through it. The thing that's going through the torment probably is the phone. The phone is probably the thing going and getting banged up, bruised up, moved around, all that stuff, because it's not where it's supposed to be, in a sense of where you aren't actually getting attacked, or you aren't actually, nothing's happening to you. You know what I mean? You're okay. So, oh, fuck. So, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but anyways, I got on the habits of affirmations, and I started with the positive dailies. I didn't really do it daily, but I did it enough times to start to do it more. And it's like, once you start to do something enough, you unconsciously do it. And even if that's sometimes subconscious, like, that means sometimes you might realize you're doing it without realizing you're doing it. So like, you're doing whatever that thing is that you wanted to do. Say it's a goal, say it's working out, say you're at the gym, you're working out, and you're at the gym really pumping it up, and you're just like realizing that, damn, you're doing this without complaining, without struggling, without any of the pain that comes with it. You're just doing it. You know what I mean? Like, that's where mentality starts. You gotta start with something. So that positive training that I gave myself, that positive reinforcement that I started to develop for myself, that I wasn't necessarily used to, became a habit that developed into its own web of habits. And that's really how my brain works. My brain works, even my thoughts, like, it's a web. Everything is a web. Like, not to say I'm fucking Spider-Man, but to be honest with you, like, it starts off as a dot, right? And that's just a thought, and then it goes into like 4 or 5 other thoughts. I can't remember, but it's like a little diagram that has that like pattern or whatever. But those thoughts process into different thoughts, and it's just like, I have so many thoughts, almost like it's other people's thoughts in my head. But that is because I look at everything from every perspective. So my thought process is always going to be way more, not necessarily complex in the sense of saying that it's better than people's, but complex in the sense of saying it is definitely not simple. Like, my brain is not simple, and I commend myself for having it at that point. Like, I don't know what else to do, because, oh my God, my brain is crazy. But so you can start for yourself Start with the positive affirmations, because it's simple. I want to say stupid, but it's really not even. It's just mental development. It's reprocessing, or no. It's reprogramming your brain from whatever society or whatever reality that you lived in, or whatever community, or that's not the word, but more so environment that you're in, developed you to be, or not developed, but molded you to be. I mean, I guess it's the same thing. But so, like, yeah, start to think about it all. And if you don't want to go that deep, if you feel like you don't think you have the strength to do that, which, if anybody tells you that because you're not strong enough to do it, you're weak, that's not ever the case. You may not ever be as strong as somebody, but just because you're not as strong as them does not mean, my words, but it does not mean that you're not strong. You just have different strengths. Everything is a spectrum. We always learn this. Everything is starting to come out as a spectrum at this point. Like, every single thing is becoming a spectrum. So think about strength as a spectrum too. There's nobody that's weaker. It's more so they're just not as strong, which sounds stupid because it's the same thing, and it's not even contradictory. It's just like simplified. But sometimes that's what you gotta do. Sometimes you don't gotta get too complex with it, because it's not that deep. The way my brain works, like we just talked about it, I have to do that for myself sometimes. And maybe that's something that had to come through for y'all. Maybe y'all gotta do it too. When you start to spiral, when you start to web out, realize that you just thought about it. It's just a thought. And it's just one thought. It's not 1,000. It's not 1,000,000. It's literally all the same thoughts. It's the same thought in different versions. It's one thought. So you can breathe, calm down, and either process that thought or let it go for a second until you can think about it on a clear mind, because you want to have a clear mind. It's important to have a clear mind in every single thought process when you have the web mind. You know what I mean? Because it's really cool. And I think certain things we look at as, like, even with just ADHD, we look at it as a disability or something like that. But I really think it could be like something more. Like, certain things can be a curse for people or a blessing. It's like when you look at things, like even when in the movies and things like that, like some people are like, it's a curse, but it always comes out as the lesson is supposed to be that it is a blessing. And it's never that it is a curse or a blessing. It's just more so how you use it. And not just how you use it, but how you let it change you too. Like, think of power. Like, everybody wants to do good with power. Like, you see everybody that comes up, almost every celebrity, almost every person that has fame actually had the idea that they wanted to help, that they could do something with what they had. And once they got it, they probably tried, but there's other powers around. And of course, they want to keep them condemned, keep people, keep order, keep a balance in a sense. But essentially, instead of people continuously trying to fight and continue to go further and grow and get uncomfortable just a little bit more until you can break the barrier that you need to break, because you're not supposed to be comfortable all the time. Although, it's okay to be comfortable sometimes. Like, you gotta do the hard work. You gotta work hard. But you also gotta relax too. You gotta have the balance of peace and insanity. I think that's a word. And I don't want to say sanity. Like, I mean like insane. Like, literally. Because that insane mindset is that lock-in mindset. Like, it's really just manic. It's manic. Because it can be used by you to manipulate yourself to believe so much bad things or so many good things. It's just how you train your brain and how much time you put into it to actually get there. Because once it's there, once you develop the things, everything's unconscious. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to even do it anymore. You do it anyways. It's a habit. That's what it develops into. That's why it's all just literal habits. You know what I mean? Coping mechanisms is just a habit. Smoking is just a habit. Watching TikTok is just a habit. Like, everything is a habit. Even going to school, like, we go to school because we're told to, right? But even then, after the certain point in time where you're told to go to school, you just do it because you know it's a habit. Not because of any reason, not because you actually have to learn something, or not because these people are about to give you something significant that day, but just because it's your habit and you're comfortable. Get out the comfortable. maybe that's your lesson. Maybe that's my lesson. Maybe that's everybody's lesson. Maybe everything I say is all of it lessons. You know what I mean? But yeah. So start some habits. Start training your brain. Start teaching yourself like you're a robot. But no. Sorry, I had to burp and I just didn't want to do it on camera. But I did anyways. Think of yourself as an artificial, intelligent person. Or more so, I don't even know, like, think of yourself like a mutant. Think of yourself as like a super powered person or something. Somebody that is essentially an evolved version of a human. But that's exactly what it is, because like anything that's evolved, like anything that people don't understand nowadays, not even nowadays, it's always been like this, but anything that people don't understand, they seem to fear. And when they can't figure it out, or they can't control it, or they can't manipulate it and things like that, then they start to fear it, and they start to use fear back as a tactic to either control it or neutralize it. To be honest with you, like, that's the best word to do, because I don't want to say, like, I'm not trying to get deep like that, like, you know what I mean? But in a sense, you have to neutralize the person. You have to gain control somehow. And even if neutralizing could be two people, A and B, one person wants to have mental control over the other, and this person right here, B, is learning their power. B is knowing that you can't break me anymore. So A doesn't really have that control over them anymore. There's a loss of power there. So A decides to mentally break B a little bit deeper. If it's scars, it's creating new traumas. If it's going off of old traumas, if it's going off of old traumas and developing a new trauma off of that, like the web theory that we were talking about, but using it in a different area of life, in a negative aspect in life. Like, you can really use everything in every aspect of life. Everything applies everywhere. You just have to be able to look at all perspectives, because perspective is the biggest thing. Like, when you look at your own perspective, when I look at my own perspective for anything, I'm always going to have the judgment of myself, because I'm looking at it as myself. You know what I mean? Even if it's not me in a situation, I'm going to have to look at it as myself. But if I look at everything as if I look at everything as a different perspective, or in a different perspective, as a fuck